So a while ago I did a video on my Blue Lock U-20 team predictions, and that's pretty outdated in my opinion. No, if you're going back to look at that, just make sure you take it with a grain of salt. It is unlisted now, but I'm pretty sure you can find it in one of my playlists. So I think it's pretty much time for an updated list. The reason for that being that we've seen all the Blue Lock characters progress mainly, except for the people on the PXG team at the time of recording this, since they haven't played their debut match on screen. But mainly everyone else has gotten screen time. We've gotten feats for every character, you know, abilities and things like that. So now it's time for me to update my list. And of course, remember, this is all just my subjective opinion. If you have a problem with my opinion, of course, you can leave yours down in the comments below. And also make sure to check out the pinned comment, which is from our friends from Raid Shadow Legends. If you haven't heard already, which I'm sure you have, Raid Shadow Legends is a free-to-play game with over 80 million downloads, an almost endless amount of characters, and amazing PC-like graphics, all on mobile. In Raid Shadow Legends, it of course has amazing gameplay, but like every game, there has to be an obstacle or a big bad for everyone to get over, and prove that you've become truly adept at the game. Well, in Raid Shadow Legends, the big bad is the Doom Tower. The Doom Tower is basically a prison that the character the Arbiter created in order to entrap a group of bad guys that she couldn't defeat alone. 1,000 years later, the Doom Tower is still up, and the Arbiter doesn't have enough power to keep it up for very long. And this is where you come in. The Arbiter needs you to take over the Doom Tower and defeat all the bad guys in it with a group of legendary heroes that you create. But not all bosses and enemies are the same in this Doom Tower, such as the character the Scarab King, who I personally had a very hard time fighting against. It's very hard to get big hits on him, and if you go at him without a shield buff, he'll basically run through your entire team. I could keep going about the intricacies of the Doom Tower, but I'd rather you guys experience it yourself. But if you enjoy shows as well, the first episode of Raid called The Arbiter is out now, and to celebrate this, Raid will be adding some of the characters from the series into the actual game as playable characters, one of them being the fearsome warlord Artek, who will be available to anyone who just logs in for 7 days between now and July 24th. And if you've seen the first episode of Call of the Arbiter, you'll know exactly who Artek is, but if you haven't, I won't spoil the surprise for you, and I recommend that you just go watch it. With all of this amazing stuff and more coming to Raid, you have pretty much no reason not to play it. Use the link in the description or my QR code on screen to get insane bonuses such as the Champion Drake, and other very useful things such as energy boosters. The game is very enjoyable and fun, and since you guys can get these amazing boosts by using my code, I highly recommend it. And when you do happen to get on, you can find me at the name OutlawTruth, and if you're fast enough, you might even be able to join my clan. So hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Now to begin the video, I'll start off with the defensive lineup, starting with the goalie. We obviously know who's going to be the goalie for this team, basically the day 1 goalie, Gagamaru. Gagamaru has basically been the goalie for Blue Lock since day 1, and he's even played against the Japan U-20 team, not to mention the Neo Egoist League, showing that he can easily play at a U-20 level. Although Gagamaru does have his faults, such as Baro's most recent goal in the manga, it's pretty insane to think that in order to get over this hurdle of Gagamaru, he needed to find a whole new vision and coordinate with his entire team just to score a goal. There also have been some rumors about some Gagamaru ego awakening, which I don't think is impossible, but I don't know, I just don't see it happening really. But I think Gagamaru is a pretty clear no-brainer pick for a goalie. Moving on to the left center back, I have Rayo. Now we know Rayo is someone who's pretty great overall at everything, but we also know he's very valuable at defense from what we see in the Manshine City match, as well as the U-20 game even. Because Rayo has the abilities of both a midfielder and a defender, as we see in the Manshine City match where he's able to defend and keep up with Nagi in a play, and even pretty much guides Nagi perfectly. Also in his flow state, he seemingly has the ability to use meta vision, which would basically be A1 for any defender. On defense, he also has the ability to basically copy any ability that he sees from any other defenders, such as what he did with Aiku's God Snake, copying it to 99%. And we see that Ego, arguably one of the best coaches in the Blue Lock universe, tells Rayo to practice defense specifically in order to compete in the U-20 game. And even though Rayo wants to be a striker, I think this position fits him pretty well. Next up at the right center back is obviously someone we have to include on a Japan U-20 defensive lineup, the God Snake Aiku. Now Aiku in the U-20 match was impressive enough, showing us why he's called the best defender under 20 in Japan. But in the Neo Egoist League, he brings his skill to a whole another level. Being on the master strategist Mark Snuffy's team, the Ubers, he's brought up his defense quite a lot, and is even seemingly able to use metavision on command, as we see in the newest chapter. In this chapter as well, he's also able to press Isagi on offense, and even calls his bluff when taking a lefty shot. And it seems like honestly Isagi had to get bailed out by Yukimiya in this match. I feel like Aiku, just like Gagamaru, is just a no-brainer pick for defense lineup, and him being on the starting 11 of the Ubers team just shows his talent and why he needs to be on this defensive lineup in order to win the U-20 for Japan. Although he isn't on the level of the ace eater Don Lorenzo, who was the best center back in the U-20 world, he definitely definitely is a great defender overall. Moving on to the left wing back, I have Nico. Now before I get into why I actually have Nico here, I want you all to remember that Nico is the youngest member in Blue Lock. And despite that fact, he already has some form of metavision. Although not being on the same level as Kaiser and Isagi's, he still does have this, and with Isagi by his side, Isagi will definitely probably teach him how to use metavision perfectly, or at least on the same level as himself. But it's clear as day that Nico is supposed to be a defender. He was even put in this position at the U-20 game, and was even able to stop some of Sei and Shido's shenanigans. And even though Sei wasn't going all out per se, it's still a pretty insane feat for Nico to have at just 16. And with him also being on the Ubers team with Aiku, they've definitely been getting a lot better with Mark Snuffy, and Aiku might even have a few things to teach Nico. Overall, Nico's potential as a defender is just too great for me not to put him on this list, and I feel like he just deserves a spot. Now onto the right wing back, I have Kunigami. Now I know this sounds absolutely insane since Kunigami is ambidextrous and has similar physicality to Noah, but if we're being honest with ourselves, Kunigami's specs just better fit the defensive lineup. The reason for this being, we've already seen that he has amazing physicals, being able to shake off multiple defenders at once, and the only real thing he's lacking, which we don't even know he's lacking pretty much, is just vision. All we know about his vision is that he doesn't have meta vision just yet, but it's definitely a possibility. Now if I'm being 100% honest with myself here, I pretty much doubt that Kunigami will be on the defensive lineup, but if he were to be on this lineup, it would be pretty hard to get past him, since there's probably not a lot of people in the U-20 world who have the same specs as him, or even similar specs. We do know that Kunigami is pretty much only lacking in speed, as we've seen in his matchup with Bachira, where Bachira was able to pretty much mix him up and cross him, leaving him in Bachira's dust. But honestly, vision would probably give him an edge on this type of dribbling. Since not everyone's really unpredictable like Bachira, metavision might actually allow him to read their dribbles and take the ball from them after tackling them. But now to arguably the most critical point in a lineup, the midfielders. Now for the left midfielder, is pretty much a no-brainer. I have Sei Itoshi. We all knew Sei Itoshi was going to make it to the midfielder lineup for my list, since he is just blatantly the best midfielder in Japan. He's shown his skill to us time and time again, so the question isn't is he qualified enough to be on the team, it's whether or not he will actually join the team. From what we know about Sei, he doesn't really care about anything else but winning the Champions League, and only showed interest in the U-20 game because he wanted to see what Blue Lock could create. But I do think it's definitely probable that Sei will join the team, since as we know, the whole Sei and Rin plot point isn't really finished per se, since they didn't get a real conclusion to their plot. The last thing we see from them is Sei telling Rin that Isagi might change Japan, and Rin just gets very angry. But I do believe one day they could reconcile and put away their differences and begin playing on the same team like they did once long ago. And since both of them have only gotten better over time, it would make for an amazing duo. Also, with the fact of Sei having metavision, he'll see the entire field and basically be able to control it in any way he wants to, allowing Rin to score unstoppable goals. We already know that Rin has pinpoint accuracy passes and amazing offense, as well as pretty good shots, being better than the ace Shudo Sendo for Japan's U-20 team. Also being part of the new generation 11, which is the same thing that Lorenzo and Kaiser are on, Kaiser being respected as one of the best strikers under 20 because of the Kaiser impact, and Lorenzo being respected as blatantly just the best center back in the U-20 world. So the name of New Generation 11 obviously doesn't come lightly, and it takes very hard work to obtain it. Moving on to the right midfielder, that will be Corona. Now Corona as a right midfielder alone might seem kind of weird, but I promise this will all make sense once I get to the strikers. We always knew Corona was pretty good since he did finish top 4 in the second selection, but in the Neo Egoist League, along with Isagi, he's shown his true abilities. Corona is basically the perfect pair for Isagi, with Isagi even saying that he has a great passing option at a perfect distance that allows him to look ahead and see the entire field. Going on to say that Corona can position himself in a favorable position for them and an unfavorable position for the enemies, allowing them to use their signature planet hotline. Corona is able to play at a crazy high level and even keep up with the metavision Isagi, and passing him basically perfect passes. We also see in Corona's stat card that he has an S in speed, an A in pass, and an A in dribbling, showing that he's a complete monster on offense and has amazing passes. And he was specifically chosen for the starting 11 for the Germany team because of his speed and dribbling ability, and because he can adapt to his teammates' play styles, allowing them to score goals. So it's pretty obvious that he has abilities of a midfielder, and it would be wrong to put him anywhere else. Next up are the wingers. Starting with the right winger, I'll start with Chigiri. Chigiri as a winger is a pretty obvious choice. He's just a player you want on the wing because of his speed and his ability to get up the field quickly. Because he has the best speed in Blue Lock as of now, since we haven't seen what Zantetsu can do yet in the Neo Egoist League, we'd obviously want someone of Chigiri's caliber and speed on the wing, especially after his training with Chris Prince in Manshine City, where he upped his speed even more. And obviously with his dominant leg being the right one, we want him on the right side. Chigiri has a similar playstyle to Julian Loki, being a pure speedster type that relies on speed for his dribbling, and this seems to work more often than not. And he's also found his golden zone for his shot after his training with Chris Prince, which is 19 meters from the goal and 44 degrees to the left. So with him being on the offense, he has the speed, he has the dribbling, and he also has the shot, which allows him to score a corner shot which even Gagamaru can't block. And although he didn't make it to a striker position, him being on this team as a winger is definitely something you need. Now onto the left winger, who is Meguru Bachira. Now Bachira on the wing might seem odd as well, but I feel that he doesn't meet the requirements for a striker for this team, but he also doesn't need to be benched. Bachira would definitely be useful for breaking through the defense of the opposing team with the freeform dribbling he attained after training with Livigno. After his training with Livigno, Bachira gained a very much more matured style of dribbling, giving him basically infinite options for where he's going to go. But even though he does have so many options, he plays more passive, allowing his opponent to make the first move and for him to counterattack in an instant, breaking past him. And because Bachira has such amazing speed, dribbling, and an amazing shot, mind you, since he's of course one of the strikers for Blue Lock, he just needs to be on the field, but just not as a striker. But his passes are also pretty great as well, so for him to be on the wing, so the strikers know that he's there for an assist, but also knowing he has amazing shot potential, leads for a very deadly combo. Now onto the real most pivotal point of this team, since if we're being honest, nothing really matters, no defense, offense, nothing matters if you can't make goals. The strikers. Now the first striker I have on this team is Ren Itoshi, and the specific position I have him on is lined up with his brother Sei Itoshi so they can make their combo plays. Ren Itoshi has been hyped up since literally day one of Blue Lock, being Blue Lock's ranked number 1 after the selections, and mainly being the reason that they won the U-20 game. But before we go into Ren's flow state, let's go over what he does in his base form. In general, Ren just has very amazing shots, and his first goal that we see is an amazing curve shot from the middle line and completely sinks it on the Blue Lock man goalie. And also being a rival for Isagi, the main character of the series, he has to have some potential as a striker, not to mention the Itoshi blood that's running through him. Unlike Isagi though, who just has direct shot at an S tier, Ren's curve shots are what are implied to be his best asset. And also unlike Isagi until currently, Ren has been able to hold his own in physical battles and shoot shots even while being contested in physical battles. But his shots aren't the only thing that he has that are A1, he also has pretty amazing vision. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the PXG game in the Neo Egoist League, that it shows that he actually gained metavision. But we know from the novels that he's always been able to see the game like a drone, looking on top of the field. But what you might not know is that he might have some level of predator vision. We see in the final selection matches of Blue Lock, Ren is able to hide himself behind people in order to be hidden from the goalkeeper and take a shot while the goalkeeper is completely blind of his movements, which is the exact same thing that Baro does in the newest game. Although it might not be to the same caliber as Baro's vision, it still definitely is something to think about and consider when going for the perfect striker. So with Ren having all these amazing abilities and this amazing shooting technique, he obviously has to be one of the strikers on this team. Now onto the final striker, the main character of the manga, everyone saw it coming, Isagi Yoichi. Now this might be crazy since everyone for some reason thinks that Isagi should be a midfielder, but the way the manga is shaping up to be now, Isagi is definitely going to be the best striker in Japan, and probably won't be settling for being a midfielder anytime soon. Since as we've seen already, he's got an offer to be a midfielder for Noah Noah, and he simply declined it, even though Noah Noah is his complete idol, someone he's been watching and mimicking since he was a child. Since I don't want to make this video too long, I'll just go over all of Isagi's skills and whatnot, just to quickly get over it. Isagi has a depth metavision, being on the same level as Kaiser and above the level of people like Nico, allowing him to view the field at a way that no one else really can, and predict the future of the field, which ultimately is what allows him to be at the perfect place at the perfect time. Isagi also has an amazing direct shot, it being at a literal S tier in the series, and his main offensive weapon. And while his main foot is his right foot, he is able to use an amazing lefty shot, which is about 40% as good as his right shot, at least according to Aiku. Mind you, this lefty shot was gained with only 5 days of training and preparation, which means that it could be even developed even further before the U-20 games. Isagi also has pretty good speed, but when people talk about Isagi's dribbling, they do say he's lacking, which I kind of agree I guess, but he doesn't really need dribbling when we see that he has people like Corona on his side, who with Isagi is able to break through the best defensive team on the Neo Egoist League, the Ubers, just with their amazing coordination in their planet hotline. And in conjunction with all of this, Isagi also has his egocentrism. Egocentrism basically allows Isagi to control the ego or protagonism of a character that he chooses, and if he plays his cards right, he can allow them to play in a predictable way that he can use to his advantage, such as what he did to Yuki Miya to surpass Kaiser in one play in the Neo Egoist League. But yeah, that's pretty much my lineup. I'll have it on the screen scrolling as I speak right now, just so you can get a kind of a visual for what I had going on. And if you disagree with my lineup, of course, drop some comments down in the comments down below on what you would change. And also don't forget to check out the link for Raid Shadow Legends and download it. But that's all I have for today. Goodbye.